We're now going to take a look at adding some CSS to customize the styles for our table content. So I'm in the special table HTML page, and what I've done is taken all of our specials that we had sitting on the page as basic text, created a table, and moved that content into the table. Now the table still needs a few modifications, so we're going to take care of that now. But one of the modifications is let's start styling the content inside of our table. Because right now we don't have any styles for this table. So if you look in the left-hand column and you click on this content, you will see that there's a class called Specials attached to that content. And I can keep that class on there. We're going to add some additional styles for the right-hand side. But when we do that, it may affect our left-hand side at the same time. So let's take a look at that. Now there is such a thing as a table header tag. When I inserted this table, I said I didn't want a table header. But sometimes once you get the table going, you decide you do want the first row in the table to be a table header or the left-hand column. So how can you adjust that once the table's created? Well, what I'm going to do is put my cursor in this first row, and if I move down to the properties area, you'll see there's one called header. If I click on that, it's going to change the code. So notice my code right now is a TD, standing for table data. That's a basic table of content, a cell within a table. This is going to change once I click this header. So I'll go ahead and do that. My cursor's in the row I want to make a header. I will click header. You'll see my content changed quite a bit. And I also now, instead of a TD tag, I have a TH. You'll see very shortly why I'm pointing that out. Now what a table header does is it centers and makes bold whatever's inside of it. So that's how my content here ended up centered and bold. What I want to do is style that just a little bit better than what it's set up now. And I can do that based on some of my other styles on the page. So let's say this side I did not want to have this large text, or I wanted to match the text. We have to make a decision about what to do here. So I think what I'll do is, up in this area, I'm going to copy this specials class and assign it up here. So I'll take this specials up in my CSS styles panel. I'm going to do a right click, and remember we always have that duplicate available. The key is, what am I going to duplicate it into? What rule? So I'm going to change this to a tag, and I know that table header is a TH tag, so that's what I'm going to modify. So I can use that TH tag right here, and it's going to maintain the same styles as this specials class. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and you can see that's exactly what it did. It now matches that text in the left-hand side. Here is my TH with the exact same properties. Now I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger, so I'll do 1.2 M, and you can see it got bigger. My specials over here did not. Now the other thing I want to do, that looks fine at the top, but I don't want this to have that specials class anymore. And that's this one right here is applied to this. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to click in that row and go down here in my class and say no class any longer. You can see it removed it. So I can very quickly remove that class from the left-hand side. Just click within that cell, go into the class, and say no class. So there we are. You can see how it's affecting the text. So now all of my text looks the same, which may or may not be what I want. It's kind of hard to get an overview of that left-hand column now that we don't have the text assigned in quite the same way. But what I'm going to do is I want all of my text in the table to match the text that's out of my table. Right now, this is not the same font as this one up here. If I look at my P and LI tag, you can see it's Georgia font. And I don't really want it Georgia font, so I'm going to select that. So I click in the right-hand side here, and within my font stack, I have some other options. So let me go ahead and make that Palatino Linotype. It's very obvious now that these two are different. So I want my table cells to match my paragraph text. There's a quick and easy way to do this. I know it's a TD tag that I need to modify because if I click inside every one of these cells, it's all the same. So what I can do if I want it to look like my paragraphs and my bulleted lists, I can simply click on that, put my cursor in there, type a comma, and say TD. And look at what happened to our table. It's now matching the rest of our page content in terms of styles. So that looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is make this just a little more obvious. So I'll select it, and I'm just going to make it bold. So I'll just keep it at bold for right now. We may be adding more specials before our site launches. So we'll just make it bold so it's a little more obvious to the user. Now, you'll see that by default, things end up in the middle of that table cell. And what I'm going to do is select this column of content using my table widths up at the top here, select column. And when I do that, down in my properties area, notice it says cell. And what I'm going to do with my cell is set the vertical to top. So this is the vertical placement of my text within that table cell. My right-hand side is up at the top because I've got a lot more text, but the left-hand side is not. So I'll change the vertical by default. HTML puts it in the middle. So you can see it pulled it up, and there's my text. Let me go ahead and save this, and let's look at it in the browser. See how it's looking. Dreamweaver's prompting me because if you notice my HTML page was saved, but not the new styles that I just created. So I will say yes, save the new styles. So this is Dreamweaver prompting you before you put it in the browser. And there is our table. Now there's one other issue. Notice our table extends all the way out. This is kind of the old-fashioned way we used to work with our content within the web. But what I want to do is make that table a fixed width. So it's not going to extend all the way across. To do that, I'll click on the table tag, and let me set this up to 600 pixels wide. Notice I'm not affecting the columns, just the overall table. Let me click off of that. My save was not showing. And now I have a save. Let's take a look at that in the browser. I'll go over here. Let's preview it in the browser. There's my table of present specials. Now we can decide if we want that table to be centered or not. Let's do that real quick as well. Show you how to do that. And it all comes down to the table. I'll go over to the Align Center, and you can see it's staying in the center of our content. The other thing I'm going to do is click the table tag and remove that border. Now, nobody will even know that this content resides within a table. So I'll save my page, preview in the browser, And whatever size I make this, you can see that stays centered in the browser window. And I'm doing it really slow. That's why it's a little bit jerky here. But it's centered. Our content is remaining inside a table, so it all stays aligned. We may still want to do some style modifications to this table. This left-hand column is a little bit narrow, but that is something that we can do real quickly right here. Now, if I really need these columns changed, I do need to click and drag them. There we go. And I think I'll make that just a little wider. And I'm going to set this to 700 wide instead. There we are. We'll take a look at it once more. And our table is coming into shape. So that is creating a table, modifying a few more properties of the table, and also adding some CSS style rules specifically for our table content. So that is how you can work with content within a table in Dreamweaver.